Hey folks, welcome to Brews and Bites with Kyle. My name is Kyle Gilliland. Thanks for taking a look here. This is the inaugural episode of a video series I've wanted to do for some time, but like most of you, have trouble finding the time. So this video series is really going to talk about two things that I really enjoy: drinking and technology. In moderation, of course. And by drinking, it doesn't always have to be the adult beverage variety. I really enjoy coffee, beer, distilled spirits, and cocktails. So mostly the adult beverage variety, but we'll see how it develops. Additionally, I'm a self-proclaimed tech nerd, so really want the opportunity to tell you all what's on my mind, what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing out in the wild as I talk to folks, and really how I think organizations, or as the case may be, individuals, can really help move the needle from a technology perspective, potentially cybersecurity and privacy, all of that good stuff. So without further ado, let's get started. Today I wanted to talk to you about something I've been drinking, actually kind of by accident. You'll see here, if you can see it here, this is a brand of beer that I have historically enjoyed, Leffe, which I have no idea if that's actually how you pronounce it, but I'm in Southern California and I grew up taking Spanish, so Leffe. There's only one way I'm going to pronounce that. But historically, I drink the amber variety of this, which is a Belgian ale, which is a flavor profile that I really like. I got this by accident via DoorDash and held on to it, and I'm enjoying it. So we're going to try, as I'm recording this, to open this. Looks snafu free. That was nice. And then we'll show how this looks. Try it out and give you my thoughts. So let's see here. Don't mind the bad pour. So as I'm letting that settle here, we'll take a look. Well, you can see, unfortunately, again, bad pour, but otherwise, it's kind of a blonde, lager look kind of to it. Their typical ale is like a brown ale or amber ale, which I rather enjoy. But this is a nice light color. Really appreciate that. And I'll just drink out of this guy for now. So very, very good, kind of creamy, hints of vanilla, maybe a little caramel. Um, I am by no means kind of the beer equivalent of a sommelier, so that's about as much nuance as you're going to get from my ratings there. But very drinkable, very light, especially as we get into kind of the spring, summer period. So if that's kind of your boat, highly recommend it. So give it a taste. Now on the tech side of things, wanted to talk to you about some things that I'm seeing kind of in the market right now that I think are kind of surprising. So, I've been getting a ton of calls lately and having a lot of conversations around privacy, which is everybody's favorite topic. And as an attorney in California, with an emphasis on privacy and the law of breach and response, it's something that I actually really enjoy. I'm sure most of you don't, but what I find interesting about the conversations I've been having is that they're quite a bit different than the conversations that I had 6 years ago, let's say, as GDPR was kind of making its way through the legislature in the EU while it was becoming law, and as organizations kind of saw this potential wave coming their way, and we're like, what are we supposed to do? How are we going to comply? Back at that time, everyone was scared, but at the same time, I think there was some semblance of analysis paralysis. Organizations decided to really kind of kick the can, and a lot of the companies that I was talking to at the time were saying, "Look, I don't really know how big this thing is going to be. I don't really understand what I'm supposed to do. So we'll see when we get there." And now fast forward, in 2024, and we're having a lot of the same conversations, at least from a substance perspective. But I get the feeling that organizations are really trying to do something about their privacy programs, and I think that's really resulting from really a couple of things. Number one, the maturity of organizations themselves. I think a lot of the folks who have like taken on privacy within an organization have now had an opportunity to develop kind of the muscles around privacy, maybe not directly by or by directly managing privacy, but really by the cybersecurity side of that, right? We've seen a ton of cybersecurity maturity within organizations, driven by need, really. As organizations have had to deal with things like ransomware, as they've had to make more disclosures to their clients, as they've had to deal with regulators, and in some cases, the law, right? They've had to develop a lot of the, like I said, the muscles that are required to deal with things like privacy as well. The other thing is that the tools landscape has really matured over that time, and so we'll talk a little bit about that space in particular, whether it be data discovery or privacy operations and things like that, and kind of maybe how that can be leveraged going forward. Um, and so what I wanted to talk about today are really three things that I think organizations can do to move the needle in terms of their privacy program. And it starts with assessing where you are. I tell people the same thing on the cybersecurity front. If you don't know where you are, it's really hard to figure out how you're going to get to where you want to be. And so I think most organizations really need to take a step back and assess where they are from a privacy perspective, right? They need to assess their programs. And now the first thing some people might be saying is, well, I don't have a program, so how do I assess that? And the answer is you still go through the same process, right? And why? It's because if you go through a framework, right, and assess your own program or lack thereof against that framework, you're going to understand obviously where you are, but you're also going to understand prioritization, right? You're going to see things that you're like, well, actually, I am kind of doing this, or I am kind of doing that, or wow, we haven't done that at all, and I think that's a priority, right? And so at the end of that assessment, you're going to have a better idea of really where you need to go, where you need to build the most, right? Where you need to kind of flex those muscles more. I had a colleague years ago say, you don't need to get A's in everything, but you need to get a passing score. So that assessment is going to figure out, and let you know where you need to kind of raise your F's to C's, right? So it helps with prioritization, helps with really kind of where you need to invest your time and your money and your resources. So number one is that program assessment. Now, how do you do it? I think while there isn't necessarily one ring to rule them all when it comes to privacy, right? We've got, fractured regulation, we've got competing contractual requirements, all that good stuff, which is really fun to deal with. In my book, there is a logical place to start, and that's the NIST privacy framework. Now, the NIST privacy framework is by no means like the single framework to address all requirements, but it is a very good starting point. A lot of kind of what they've developed has found its way into other frameworks, and frankly, NIST is really good about building frameworks, whereas GDPR is it's legislation, right? Blame attorneys for writing that kind of thing. And so it's the NIST privacy framework is far more actionable than dealing with, let's say, CCPA or CPRA or GDPR. So start there, do an assessment, use the NIST privacy framework. I think that'll lead to good things, right? The next thing that typically will follow from that is building your privacy program. So what is that? That's the governance structure that's going to drive, how your organization handles privacy. And so, it's very policy-ish, right? It's going to talk about roles and responsibilities. It's going to cover high-level activities that need to occur and when they need to occur. So we're going to start talking about, well, who is your data privacy officer? We're going to start talking about, things like, routine privacy assessment and how frequently that needs to be done. We're going to, think about, data privacy impact analysis and how frequently that needs to happen. We're going to start talking about, how often you need to identify where your data is and things of that nature. We're going to talk about consent. We're going to talk about, all the things that kind of comprise the privacy program, right? But we're also going to define who needs to be doing that, right? Which is very, very important if you want the program to not just be created, but to be operational, right? And so that's really that second leg that I think organizations need to do. They need to build that foundational privacy program, understanding that they're going to iterate, right? I mean, it's not going to be your end-all be-all privacy program when you first start, but it should be, a good first step, right? Now, the last thing that I think people need to do to kind of build that foundation, right? This by no means is like again, the end of your privacy program or your privacy journey. But again, if we're talking about three things that organizations can and should do as they're starting out in privacy, that third thing, in my opinion, is data discovery. Really, really hard to have an operational or effective privacy program if you don't know what data you have, where it is, and who you're sharing it with, right? And I think this is an area that has changed over the last 5-6 years to make privacy a little bit more approachable, right? Back then there weren't a whole lot of tools to help organizations identify the types of data they had. Organizations were, in the midst of their shift to the cloud, and a lot of the tools that maybe were available at the time didn't focus on cloud repositories and, didn't do an amazing job of even finding, on-premise data. And so at this point in time, the tides have turned a little bit, right? There are plenty of tools out there that organizations can bring in to help augment, their data discovery capabilities. But typically, I'll say, organizations obviously need a tool because the scale of data is just too large to handle manually. However, I would typically encourage organizations to do a sort of manual data discovery, talking to the business folks, not IT. This is not an IT function. It's a business function. Document what data you have, why you have it, what platform you're using to collect it, who you're sharing it with, if anyone, and then go talk to IT and figure out, well, where are those things? Are they hosted on premise? Are they in databases? Are they in file shares like, and other unstructured data repositories? Are they out in the cloud? Are they in SaaS applications? All those things are important, but that's kind of like where it is. It's not so much what it is or why you have it, right? And I think it's really important to understand, all the various business processes within an organization that collect in-scope data, relevant data, why those business processes are collecting that information. And again, then you can start having the conversation about where it is. So once you do that manual data discovery, you can then shift to go ahead and pick the right technology that's going to work for your in-scope data, right? If you're largely in the cloud, well, then you want a platform that's going to be able to scan not just the cloud, but your cloud service provider, right? And those in-scope data repositories. If you have data in databases, well, gosh, you need to find a tool that can scan that, right? So that's going to dictate your tool selection. And again, so now that the tools are available, that's great, but we still need to know, which one is going to be the best for our organizations. So 3 things: privacy program assessment, governance development, and data discovery. Those are the 3 things that I think organizations should be doing to build and jumpstart their privacy programs and their overall privacy operations capabilities. So I happen to work for a company, Trace3, that can help organizations do this. I'm heavily involved, and we've got a team of professionals who do this day in and day out. So Would love to continue the conversation either on LinkedIn or via phone or email or whatever the case may be. Carrier pigeon, feel free to send yours my way. Would love to learn about what you're seeing out there in regards to privacy, why you think this is kind of being resurrected, if you will, in 2024, and what you think organizations ought to be doing today to, like I said, jumpstart that privacy program. In the meantime, I think I'm gonna enjoy the beer. Hopefully you enjoy something as well. And until next time, thanks a lot.